On October 1st, 2017, Charleston Water System celebrated a milestone event, 100 years of clean water service for Charleston and its surrounding communities. Please join us as we celebrate and explore the defining moments of our 100-year history.
We regard it as a matter of supreme necessity to the health and welfare of this community, and one may say of any aggregation of human beings, that there should be a constant, unfailing source of unpolluted, wholesome, potable water. Our existence in a state of well-being is dependent upon good water. H.B. Horlbeck, M.D., City Health Officer, City of Charleston, 1900.
Our story begins in 1670 with the settlement of Charlestown, when English colonists settled on the western bank of the Ashley River at Albemarle Point. The site provided high ground for drinking water and a protected boundary where ships could be spotted. The fledgling colony prospered, and by 1678, the settlement relocated to Oyster Point on the present-day peninsula. The new settlement grew rapidly, both in population and landmass, and as the city grew, so did the need for potable water. Between 1680 to 1800, the method most chosen in gathering water was to sink shallow wells. However, the well water soon became contaminated by nearby privies and stagnant drains, and was deemed too dangerous for consumption. With water issues continuing to plague the city, officials searched for various solutions. To meet their needs, wealthy citizens began collecting rainwater from roofs and storing it in cisterns. In time, this rainwater collection system became the mainstay of Charleston's general population.
In 1823, after hearing accounts of London's success with deep artesian wells, Charleston City Council commissioned the construction of an artesian well at Meeting and Wentworth Streets. The 1,260-foot well was a disappointment. It cost $30,000 and took years to complete, only to produce a small amount of water. It would take 50 years of trial and error, engineering ingenuity, and advances in the field of geology before artesian wells would become Charleston's primary source of water for a brief period in the late 1800s.
Artesian water. As a drink, it is healthful. For culinary purposes, it must be equally healthful. For bathing, no water can be more delightful. 1876 Report on Artesian Wells, City of Charleston Scientific Committee.
Finally, in 1879, a 1,970-foot well was successfully drilled at Marion Square. With an impressive 700,000 gallons per day, it was thought to be the first free-flowing successful artesian well in the region. Following this triumph, City Council granted a franchise to the City of Charleston Waterworks Company to develop a public water system for the city. Additional wells would eventually follow to supply the ever-growing city.
In 1897, the City of Charleston Waterworks purchased the Middleton Pinckney House at 14 George Street for the location of an office space, a pumping station, and a collecting reservoir. This historic landmark was originally completed in 1799 by Frances Mott Middleton and her second husband, Major General Thomas R. Pinckney. The house was constructed in a cruciform plan with polygonal bays in the front and back. Major renovations were required by the Waterworks Company to make room for the necessary office environment. The building would later house the Commissioner of Public Works until 1985.
In the late 1800s, a number of scientific discoveries made it clear that clean water and good sanitation practices were key to preventing disease. During an 1854 cholera outbreak in London, epidemiologist John Snow plotted the disease cases on a map and identified a water pump as the source of the outbreak. He removed the pump's handle and the epidemic subsided, proving that contaminated water could spread disease. Over the next 40 years, a series of discoveries by Robert Koch and Louis Pasteur proved that microscopic bacteria caused disease and set the stage for the establishment of a public health department to track disease and make policies to prevent the spread of illnesses. Charleston City Council established the first city health department in 1865, and in 1905, state law required municipalities to build drainage and sewer systems. 2 years later, state law required public water suppliers to begin testing their water for bacterial and chemical contaminants. By 1897, it was clear that the 2 million gallon per day yield of the city's artesian wells could not continue to support the growing population. City Council appointed a committee to find a new, reliable, and abundant water source. In 1902, engineers recommended damming the Goose Creek, a tidal tributary of the Cooper River north of the city, to develop a freshwater reservoir. The city quickly moved forward with the recommendation by granting a franchise to the Charleston Light and Water Company to take over the city's water system from the Charleston Waterworks Company and to build the Goose Creek Reservoir, along with a filter plant and steam pumping station on the Atlantic Coastline Railroad near Hanahan. The Goose Creek supply was first introduced into city water mains in the fall of 1904 and provided up to 5 million gallons of water per day. In 1917, after much debate and a vote by the citizens of Charleston, the City of Charleston purchased the Goose Creek Reservoir and pumping station from the Charleston Light and Water Company for $1.3 million. City Council formed the Commissioners of Public Works of the City of Charleston to operate the city's water system, and CPW, now known today as Charleston Water System, was born. The steam pumping station on the banks of the reservoir, originally called Saxon Station, was renamed for J. Ross Hanahan, a prominent Charleston businessman who helped negotiate the city's purchase of the waterworks. Mr. Hanahan was elected to the first Board of Commissioners and served as chairman until 1923. The original Hanahan steam pumping station, built in 1903, is now the site of Charleston Water's Hanahan Water Treatment Plant. CPW's first manager and engineer, Dr. James E. Gibson, was hired in 1917 and ran the utility until his death in 1947. During his years at CPW, Gibson gained respect for his efficient administration of the fledgling utility and received national recognition for his numerous public works achievements, especially those associated with pipeline and tunnel conveyance systems. In July of 1916, heavy rains washed away part of the Goose Creek Dam, a calamity that was immediately followed by the drought of 1917 to 1918. The resulting water shortage forced CPW to look for an immediate and long-term water source to supplement the Goose Creek Reservoir. CPW found temporary relief in the Ashley River at Bacon's Bridge by building a pump station and 3-mile wood-stayed pipeline and canal system to supply an additional 5 million gallons per day to the Goose Creek Reservoir during periods of drought. The federal government helped fund this project as additional water was needed to establish and expand the Navy Yard during World War I. To attract industry and support continued development, Charleston needed an even larger water supply. As luck would have it, the West Virginia Pulp and Paper Company was looking to build a plant near Charleston and needed a large supply of fresh water. CPW manager James Gibson recommended an underground supply tunnel from the Edisto River near Givens Ferry, and the paper company agreed to purchase raw water from the tunnel and help provide funding for the project. It took CPW 9 years, from 1928 to 1937, to build the innovative 23-mile tunnel, all hand excavated, to deliver water from the Edisto River to the Hanahan pumping station. The tunnel cost $1.36 million and provided a gravity supply of 70 million gallons per day to the plant. As a result, the Edisto River became CPW's primary source of water and continues to provide raw water to the Hanahan plant today. About a decade later, in 1949, U.S. Steel considered locating a plant in Charleston, but without an inland waterway deep enough to accommodate shipping, the company instead chose a site in New Jersey. The economic loss of such importance convinced low-country leaders that Charleston needed a deep water shipping channel and a large water supply to attract industry. The result was the creation by the South Carolina legislature of the Bushy Park Authority, which culminated in the eventual construction of the Bushy Park Reservoir and industrial park in the early 1950s. CPW contributed $1 million to the cooperative project and agreed to provide the infrastructure to make water available for industrial use. CPW also built another 7-mile tunnel to carry water from the Bushy Park Reservoir to the Goose Creek Reservoir, providing a water source that would put an end to CPW's long search for an additional supply. In 1954, the state legislature transferred all the assets of the Bushy Park Authority to CPW, and as such, CPW gained legal control of the Bushy Park Reservoir, which has remained to this day. Consequently, the Bushy Park Reservoir is now CPW's primary source of water, as well as a raw water source for adjacent industries. Today, the Bushy Park Reservoir is CPW's primary source of water, with the Edisto River utilized as a supplemental source. Today, the water treatment plant in Hanahan can produce over 115 million gallons per day of high-quality drinking water that's delivered to our customers through 1,800 miles of water mains. The plant meets or exceeds all regulatory requirements for water quality and fire protection and serves a population of over 400,000 residents within the overall Charleston water system service area.
In addition to water service, Charleston Water System provides wastewater treatment at its Plum Island Wastewater Treatment Facility. Prior to 1970, wastewater was discharged directly into the Charleston Harbor. Water quality concerns, coupled with the implementation of state and federal regulations requiring the treatment of wastewater, prompted the City of Charleston to turn the city's sanitary sewer system over to Charleston Water System to own, operate, and maintain. In the late 1960s, Charleston Water System began constructing a wastewater treatment plant along with a deep underground tunnel conveyance system. These intercepted existing sewer lines and delivered wastewater to the new treatment plant at Plum Island near Charleston Harbor. The plant has been in operation since 1971 and continues to this day to provide exceptional levels of wastewater treatment, consistently exceeding all regulatory requirements. As a result, Charleston Harbor is now a thriving ecosystem for fishing and water recreation.
In 2016, Charleston Water System completed the final tunneling phase of one of its largest and most costly infrastructure projects in its history. After spending 6 months deep underground, a tunnel boring machine finished drilling a new 1.6-mile tunnel to carry millions of gallons of commercial and residential wastewater daily from West Ashley to the Plum Island Wastewater Treatment Plant on James Island. Completion of the tunnel drilling marks an important milestone in the Charleston Water System Sewer Tunnel Replacement Project, which is the 5th and final phase of the entire $196 million sewer tunnel replacement project. This overall project, which includes a new master pumping station, is expected to be operational in late 2018 and will represent the completion of an 11-mile network of new wastewater conveyance tunnels. The future is bright at Charleston Water System. Financially, operationally, and culturally, our board, officers, and dedicated staff are working daily to ensure world-class operations and continual improvement in everything we do. As we celebrate our first 100 years, we remain dedicated to this noble mission of providing clean water services of exceptional quality and value that protect public health and the environment. It is indeed our intention to do so for the next 100 years.